My name is Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. I'm going to walk through the DraftKings options for UFC Vegas 40 Lad versus Dumont. We'll talk about the expensive fighters. We'll talk about the least expensive fighters. We'll find some value in between so that we can all build successful lineups and make a bunch of money. Make sure you go to wewantpicks.com/DraftKings and join our free DraftKings league. If you join our league for free and play for free and win for free, I will go ahead and send you money. If you're a subscriber, I will send you $15. If you're a member of this channel, I will send you $30. There's a link under this video that says join, and that's how you become a member. Free to play, fun to play, and I literally Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, send you free money as a thank you for participating because we're trying to grow this channel. Let's jump in. I've sorted the fighters by most expensive, and we'll work our way down. We'll pick out some key plays and who we think should or should not be in your lineup. Right at the gate, I'm just going to point out Sijara Eubanks is out. She dropped out of her fight, and she's being replaced by Loopy Godinez. I don't know what they're going to value her at. Godinez, she just fought last week, looked amazing, is amazing. She's probably going to be in my lineup. So when we do our final DraftKings breakdown video, we'll talk about it. We'll have a value. We'll go from there. But Loopy Godinez will probably be in my DraftKings lineup. It's a very good matchup for her, and she is a killer. Right at the gate, right on the top, we have Ludovit Klein. So Ludovit Klein is a nasty striker, very fluid striker. Let's take a look at his stats. A nasty striker, a fluid striker. And this should be a pretty one-sided fight, right? He should dominate this fight. If you look at his fight against Young with a KO TKO, which is what I expect here, he scored well over 100 points. Not well, but he scored over 100 points. If you look at his last fight against Trezano, this was an interesting one because he has 4 takedowns. That isn't typically something that he does. A lot of people thought he won that fight, and he scored 45 points in that loss, and he was $9,400. So last time out in May, some people might have been pissed, but I do think at $9,200, he's a much safer fighter. And if you could take anything away from his last fight, it's that he can shoot takedowns. So I don't think he'll need them against Nate Landwehr, Nate the Train, but he now has that in his back pocket, coupled with his power, his speed, and his fluid striking. His opponent's going to come out charging like a bull. Ludovit will lose that footwork, light him up, probably get a stoppage, most likely first or second round. So $9,200, it's a lot of money, but I do think you'll get your money's worth. Let's take a look at Ameev over Roberts. So Ameev, $9,100. This is another interesting one. He's a kickboxer that has very good wrestling. So it's an interesting, it's an interesting dynamic, if you will, because he is a Dagestani fighter, and you see that and you think, oh, Khabib. And then you look at his takedowns, 4, 4, none, 2, 3. So he's getting takedowns, scoring points, and on top of that, he's a kickboxer. And I would argue he's a kickboxer first and then a wrestler grappler. So I think he's got to be in your lineup, $9,100. And we talk about this all the time. Look at the control time, 4 minutes, 7 minutes, even almost 4 minutes in a loss, 2.5 minutes, 5 minutes. Control time in the new DraftKings scoring system, which we should all be familiar with at this point. Control time matters. You can score in control time. You could rack up control time points. Takedowns are the, 5 points each. This outside of a knockdown, the single most points you can do for any one action. So I like Ameev in this fight. I like Ameev at this price point. And, like I said, he's a very competent kickboxer as well. So I don't think he's going to have any issues. And I think $9,100 is probably a decent price. Let's take a look at Manon Fiorot. What's interesting about Manon Fiorot is this fight has been booked and rebooked. And we talked about that in the breakdown, where that means DraftKings assessed her with a price a month ago. Vegas gave her odds a month ago. They got to see how the money came in. They got to see who put Manon in their lineups. And then the fight never happened, so there was no outcome. So here we are a few weeks later. Everything's exactly the same, right? You have the same 2 fighters. They have not fought each other yet. We didn't learn any more or less about them, but the pricing for Manon has changed, which tells me last time they had her priced at $9,100. Now she's $89,000, which means a lot of people were on her opponent, Myra Bueno Silva, and now they've evened it out just a little bit. It's not a drastic swing, but it's enough to tell me that a lot of people were on the other side. Listen, her opponent is tough. She's big. She's probably one of the tougher fighters Manon has fought, but Manon is such a killer on her feet with incredible volume, incredible power, a ton of diversity, and if she does get taken down, she comes right back up. I love Manon. I like her in this matchup. I picked her to win last time. I'm picking her to win this time, and I love that we're basically getting a $200 discount this go around. So she scores really well in her wins, obviously, but she's only got 2 fights in the UFC. She outmatched both of them pretty big. So it's hard to, you got to take that for what it's worth when you only have a handful of fights. But I do like Manon. I love that she's under $9,000. I think she's a great DraftKings play. Now we have Julian Marquez at $8,800. This is a weird one. This, I will not have him in my lineup. I don't think you really want to put him in your lineup at $8,800. If you feel strongly that he's going to win, then obviously do what you want, because if we look at his wins, he scores fairly well. And he does always have the ability to come from behind. He's been losing fights. Maki Pitolo, for example, he was losing that fight, came back, won by submission. His problem is he doesn't have a ton of volume. I mean, look at this. These aren't incredible amount of strikes. He doesn't have much control time here. There's 0 takedowns. He kind of just, with no sense of urgency, plots forward, really good chin, super tough. If there's an opportunity for a submission, he'll take it. The one against Sam Alvey is incredible, but he doesn't force anything. He doesn't make anything happen. So he's very opportunistic. It's worked out for him in the past, but he is fighting an absolute wild man who can win any way he wants, as quickly as he wants, with a ton of power, a bull in a china shop. So, you know, this is an interesting fight. I'm definitely not going to spend $8,800 on Julian. We could argue if Jordan Wright's worth the money, and we'll talk about that in a second. Jim Miller, $8,700. I will probably have a lineup with Jim Miller in it. Listen, he's almost 40. He's lost more fights than he's won recently. But styles make fights, and stylistically, this is a good fight. I mean, he's fighting a guy who you could argue probably doesn't even belong in the UFC. He's got really long kicks. He backs up to come forward with a long jab. And Jim Miller, right? Clean boxing, okay wrestling, very good grappling. I imagine Jim Miller's going to crowd him, get rid of that distance, maybe catch one of those leg kicks, take him down, beat him up, and win from there. I don't know if there'll be a stoppage. That's what I'm, struggling with is he going to be able to submit or TKO Gonzalez in this fight? I don't know. I do know that Jim Miller will have some takedowns. He'll have some control time, and potentially will have a submission or a TKO. So $8,700, not a bad price for a veteran of this caliber that's getting sort of an easier fight if you consider the options out there for him. Let's take a look at Bakurai. So a lot of people are high on Bakurai, and listen, he's coming off of 2 really nice knockouts in a row. He's looked fantastic recently. This is a closer fight than the odds say, though. The odds almost have him as a 2-to-1 favorite, 2.5-to-1 favorite, depending what book you're looking at. And his opponent, second stint in the UFC, has a losing record in the UFC, but he's strung together 4 wins. He's coming back. So I do like Bakurai in this fight. I like his speed, his power, his striking is very, very good. We've seen Brandon Davis struggle with some of that in the past. So I like Bakurai to win the fight, but $8,600, once you start spending that kind of money, you basically need a win. Like, it guaranteed needs to be a win. And I just don't know if he's that guy that we're positive is going to win. Take a look at a few more, and then we'll scroll our way to the bottom. We'll take a look at Carnellosi. Listen, this is a tricky fight. I'm going to stay away from this fight, but just so you know, she's big, she's strong, she's tough. Not great at anything. Her striking's not fantastic, but it's busy. She's throwing stuff. Grappling's not fantastic, but she's so big and strong, she'll take you down and work from there. Her opponent is smaller. Her opponent is coming off a 3-year layoff because of a USADA suspension, but her opponent is a nasty, nasty kickboxer. So we have a sloppy striker in Carnellosi versus a technical, nasty kickboxer in Nunes. The problem is, what does a 3-year layoff look like? We know she was on the juice, and now she's not. What has that done to her? there's too many questions for me to play aside here. I know a lot of you have been commenting saying you think Carnellosi is just going to bully that girl down, bully Nunes down to the ground, beat her up there, probably get a TKO. Maybe. But again, she's got sloppy striking. Her opponent has very clean, good striking. You know, I actually am going to assume her opponent is in shape, ready to go, and has the same skill she had before her layoff. And if that's the case, I have Nunes winning. But I don't feel firmly enough to spend that money and waste one of my slots in my DraftKings lineup. And that's the same with Carnellosi. Take a look at Aspen Ladd. I've been very high on Aspen Ladd in the past. Very high on Aspen Ladd in the past. She's good everywhere. She's wild on her feet. She has more will and determination than anybody in this division. And she's big. As we've seen, she missed weight. I'm not going to dog her for missing weight. She had some feminine issues, which led to that. And honestly, that is very different than just not prepared. Those are two very different things. You can't look at that missed weight because she was on her period and say, oh, she's not prepared, she's not in shape. Because as a wrestling coach, I've seen this happen to some of my female wrestlers. They were on weight, ready to go, and gained weight as the day went on, even though they didn't take any fluids in. The body, I don't know. Anyway, I'm not going to dog her for missing that and say she's not prepared, she's not dedicated. She is tough. She's a decent striker. It's a bit wild, but a decent striker. Good grappling when she needs it. I mean, she's pretty good everywhere, but her opponent is an absolute savage. I'm not going to spend the money on Aspen Ladd. I am going to have her opponent, and we'll look at Dumont in a minute. And then we'll stop off here at Bruno Silva before going down. Listen, Bruno Silva only has one fight in the UFC. And it was an awesome knockout. So Bruno Silva, it's amazing because he has a ton of power, and we watched him knock people out on his feet. But the reality is he's a ground and pound guy. He's got decent takedowns, and then he just pounds heavy, big, heavy, powerful hands. It's an interesting matchup for him. His opponent is skilled. His opponent is good everywhere. The problem with his opponent is he's not great anywhere. And we've seen him have chin issues. So listen, Bruno Silva at $8,300, the power he possesses, I'm absolutely going to have Bruno Silva in my lineup. I love that he's $8,300. I would not have been shocked if they threw him at 89 or something like that. We have Andrei Arlovski. Let's look at Andrei Arlovski's the points that he's scored. So he beat Chase Sherman, only 74. Beat Tanner Boser, 44. Beat Lins, 50. He's not worth the money. $8,200. I actually do think he wins this fight, but I think he wins this fight the same way that he beat Sherman, Boser, and Lins. Dances around, touches with light punches, and just works on the outside. No firefight, no knockout, no stoppage. Andrei Arlovski is not going to be in my lineup because I don't think he'll return the value of $8,200. Imagine you had him in your lineup with Tanner Boser. You got 44 points out of a win. How pissed are you, right? How pissed are you? So he's not going to be in my lineup. I imagine this win looks like his last few wins, where it's a, ballet with some very technical striking, and that just doesn't score in DraftKings. If we scroll to the bottom, I'm not even going to click on Nate Wanweir because I just don't see him winning this fight. Danny Roberts over Ameev. I don't see that happening. I just don't see that happening, but he has more of a chance than Nate Landwehr does. Let's look at Carolina. She's the one fighting Godinez, Loopy Godinez. So, listen, she's a good striker. She's got skills. I did pick, what's her name? Sajara to win, but I'm not very high on Sajara. I understand how good she is. I don't know why. I've seen her struggle with too many weight cuts and things like that in the past. I'm just not buying into her now. But anyway, Luana Carolina, she's pretty good. She's primarily a striker. She isn't the most technical with her punches, but she's really good in the clinch. Really good in the clinch. She'll beat you up with elbows and knees inside that clinch. She's sort of a Thai fighter, and she has really good takedown defense at 90%. So when she was fighting Sajara, I was like, listen, Sajara's probably going to win, but the reality is we don't know how good her Luana's takedown defense is. 90% is a phenomenal number, but how many did she actually defend, right? How did she get to the 90%? And Sajara needed to take her down to win. But now she's fighting Loopy. Loopy's a great striker. Loopy's a great grappler. Loopy is good absolutely everywhere. I think she blows through Luana. So before at $7,200, Luana might have been an okay play. Now I just absolutely do not see it. I don't think Luana is a solid play at that price. I just don't see her beating Lupita Godinez. Let's take a look at Myra Bueno Silva over Fiorot. A lot of people, you know, she is tough. A lot of people like her. She does have jiu-jitsu. The problem is she doesn't really have any takedowns. So how are you going to get there? Because I'll tell you right now, Manon Fiorot's not going to take you down. She's going to let you up on your feet. And look, 0 takedowns. She has not had a single takedown in the UFC. And her 2 wins are by submission. So listen, she's big, she's strong, she's tough. A lot of people are going to grab her at $7,300 because a lot of people grabbed her when she was $7,100. But I'm just not seeing that, even though she is so big and she's so tough. Let's take a look at Norma Dumont. Norma Dumont will be in my lineup. She is a clean, technical striker. She is good everywhere. She will be bigger than Aspen Ladd. I know she's also fought at 135. This fight is at 145, but this is her weight class. She looks good here. We haven't seen Aspen at this weight class, and just 2 weeks ago, Aspen was at 135. So even if Aspen's naturally bigger, and Aspen should be at 45, she already cut all this weight during training. Actual weight, not water. Cutting weight the day before is water. Your 6-week fight camp, that's not water. That's extra fat. That's mass if you stop working out. So Aspen already got rid of that mass, extra fat, did all that stuff. And yes, she's had 2 weeks. She's not going to cut weight for this fight, but the only weight she'll put back on in 2 weeks is water. She's not going to put on any of the mass that she may have lost. She's not going to, you know, she's not going to be big. Maybe next year if she stays at 145 or 6 to 8 months, she'll be bigger. But I see Norma Dumont being the bigger fighter here. I see Norma Dumont touching her up, beating her up on her feet, and just winning that fight. $7,800. I would have liked to get her at a little less, but $7,800, I will take her. I like Norma in this fight quite a bit. And let's take a look if we have a price for Lupita Godinez yet. And I don't think we do. No, we don't. That's a shame. So when we do our breakdown on Friday, we'll have a price for Lupita Godinez. And nothing. So they have her, you know, they have Carolina, obviously, at $7,200. We talked about that before. They don't change that price. But we lost the favorite, and now they can give Loopy whatever price they want to. If we lost the underdog, then, you know, the favorite's priced however they're priced. So anyway, when we get a price for Loopy, I'll let you know if it's worth it. If she's 93, 94, 95, that might be a different situation. But I will take her at, you know, the $9,000 price range. I think this is a much easier fight for her and a much more straightforward fight than the Sajara one was. wewantpicks.com/DraftKings. Join the free league. Try to win the free money. And I'll see you on Friday for our final breakdowns. And I'll see you on Saturday for our pre-fight breakdown. See you then.